It's a great pleasure to see you all here on behalf of Climate Governance Malaysia. Thank you so much for being here. The topic tonight is extremely interesting. It's an emerging area. Not that it's been something that we're not familiar with. We're familiar with investor-state disputes. There's been investing going on for a long time. But the traditional patterns of ISDS are changing. Previously, we used to see investors expecting a certain return, but as developing countries, which are the destination for most investments, begin to become sensible or sensitive to environmental and social concerns and begin implementing measures to address these, oftentimes these were seen as reducing expected or anticipated returns, and that became the source of investor-state disputes. But we see a different kind of situation emerging now. One prime example is the blackout in the Iberian Peninsula very recently. Because now investors come expecting to have low carbon sources of energy. They come expecting you to have clean water, sustainable labor practices and the like. And when the host country fails to deliver on these things, for example, if you have a situation like what happened in the Iberian Peninsula and you have a business that you expect to be running on renewable energy suddenly have its energy source cut off, then there are issues. So we know that there are already cases pending based on just those few hours of outage. Right? So we're very fortunate this evening to have Elizabeth Wu here to explain to us, give us a sense of what it looks like from now on headed out. And as a developing country, we need investments, but at the same time, we need to approach this with partners. So a frequent word that comes up in all of these things is collaboration, and that's why we have you here as well. So we're very grateful to our partners, Malaysian British Chamber of Commerce, as well as Eurochan here. Hopefully, with the corporate entities here, we can work together to try to find solutions where we can minimize the risk of these ISDS occurring. All right, so you're not here to listen to me. I will put you in the very safe hands of Sharon, who will then take us through the rest of the program. Once again, a very big thank you to our partners and especially our hosts, Carlsberg Breweries Malaysia, for giving us this wonderful venue all the way until dinner time. So we're very grateful to them as well. So once again, on behalf of Climate Governance Malaysia, thank you so much for being here, and I wish you a very productive evening. Thank you very much.
It is my great pleasure to welcome you to our Carlsberg Malaysia, probably the best lounge here in Shah Alam. As a corporate friend of CGM, it is our honor to partner with CGM to host the Inter-Chamber Networking events today and also another session in November. Your presence reflects the importance of a climate champions collective between CGM's corporate friends and like-minded stakeholders from the various chambers. Here at Carlsberg Malaysia, we live by our purpose of brewing for a better today and tomorrow. And we are guided by our founder, J.C. Jacobson's golden words of constant pursuit of perfection in brewing from barley to bar, by the people, for the people, and bringing communities together for almost 180 years. Aspiring to be a thought leader in ESG, we have made strides in making our operation more circular and our products greener over the last 5 years. As we rethink our value chain, redesign our products and packaging, as well as review the material risks and opportunities, we are cognizant that we cannot do it alone. Public-private partnerships are imperative, especially to our ambition of achieving net zero carbon emissions throughout our value chain by 2040. We want to enable consumers to enjoy great beer while leaving the smallest possible carbon footprint. With that in mind, Carlsberg Malaysia takes great pride in being a corporate friend of Climate Governance Malaysia for 4 consecutive years. A participant of the UN Global Compact Network Malaysia and Brunei, as well as also being listed in the FTSE for Good Bursa Malaysia Index and achieving a AA MSCI ESG rating. I'd like to invite you all to elevate our connections, network and engage with each other. Once again, thank you for supporting CGM and visiting Carlsberg, Malaysia today. I wish you all a productive and inspiring session ahead. Terima kasih.
Friends of our climate, we had a very insightful session just now and a Q&A discussion, and I'll let that sink in with each of you, and I will just close on a slightly different tone, if I may. I actually want to start with a question for each one of you. And the question is, a world that works for everyone, how does that look like to you? Now, why do I come to this? Before I started with Eurogem at the start of the year, before that I was very active in sustainability finance. And in that capacity last year I was invited to speak here in KL at the Global Sustainability Conference, Sustainable Brands it is called. And as I was sitting there listening to all the other presentations about ESG compliance and ESG reporting and software tools for Scope 1 and software tools for Scope 2 and so on, I was getting a bit hungry. And then suddenly on stage went the top of the bill keynote speaker of the event, a gentleman by the name of Mark Buckley. You might not know him, but he's actually responsible for these colorful logos here behind me, because he is the author of the Sustainable Development Goals. And so he went on stage and said straight away, a world that works for everyone, how does that look like to you? And why did he bring that up? Because that's the question he's been asking every head of state and corporate leader in the world. And most of the time people couldn't actually really answer that question, except one source, and look it up. ChatGPT actually gives you the best answer to that question. But it brought everything together for me, because it was bringing up a very important topic when we talk about sustainability and ESG, is actually, why are we doing this? And I think it's by now fair to say that when we talk about the fight against climate change, it's probably the biggest change management project in history. And all of you work in our organization and for sure have been involved in change management projects and know how hard it is. And so when I started with Eurogem back in January, we are a small fish in the world of advocacy. Mark Buckley's word came back to me and said, look, a world that works for everyone, how does that look like to Eurogem? And I remember at the time discussions with Pearl, who sits on our board, saying, look, we have a sustainability committee, but what the hell does that mean, a sustainability committee? So I changed that in answer to Mark Buckley's question. And so now we have a working group on water, because indeed water preservation is a big problem. So a lot of companies want to work on that. We have a committee on solar energy. We have a committee on optimization of railroad cargo in Malaysia, because far too little cargo in this country goes on trains rather than on trucks, with all the implications that has for traffic and climate and so on. We launched a committee on EPR, extended producer responsibility, and even a committee on palm oil. And particularly those last two, this is the point I'm trying to make here, that we are, instead of doing pure advocacy where you chase a government and say change the law, change the regulation, we try to position things from a positive point of view. And for example, on EPR, we're going to organize a conference where across various industries we want to showcase things that work. Plastic recycling, glass recycling, recycling in the medical industry, in the electronics industry, show the government things that work rather than telling them why their regulation is poorer than in neighboring countries. And the same in palm oil. You might have heard EU and Malaysia are in negotiations for a free trade agreement, and as Eurogem we're heavily involved. And as goes quite popularly in the media, 10 years ago these negotiations fell over, allegedly because of a dispute over palm oil. True or not, we want to avoid that from happening again. So we are bringing together Malaysian, European players in palm oil from upstream to downstream, and collectively working on a positive narrative why does sustainability matter also in palm oil, and therefore in the broader context. And so I'm going to leave with one comment. We don't need one Carlsberg, we need a few thousand. And with that, I don't mean the drinks. I mean companies like Carlsberg, like you have seen, who are showcasing what they do in sustainability, which is more than just compliance. There's a heart and soul in that, and that's that intangible bit that we need more. That and an actual glass of Carlsberg, which I now hope we're all going to get. So thank you very much for